Michigan Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin jumping into the race for the U.S. Senate. She's currently in her third term representing our state in Congress. This morning she joins us live in studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of it, I have to ask you, I don't want to bury the lead. What do you know about the alien mothership? What can you tell us?
Yeah, I was laughing offset just listening to you guys. So actually, this is a Pentagon report, and it was mandated by the committee that I sit on, the House Armed Services Committee, mostly because the public is so interested in the possibility that there are, aliens out there, unexplained phenomena. So we mandated a report so that the public can have like an actual thing that they can read. Because we were getting so many questions. I mean, I'm talking about it at the lead of this interview. So it's good. It's available. People should Google it. I don't think it says that the mothership is coming. That might have been overstating it, but it is to make
not
sure.
Us.
Yeah.
We don't overstate.
Not
Us, right?
And certainly the Chinese balloon coming over, or what we thought was a Chinese balloon coming over our state, got a lot of people thinking about this.
Fair enough. Thank you regarding that. Now you are in this race for the United States Senate seat in Michigan. What goes into that decision, and how better can you serve people of the state of Michigan in that role?
Yeah, I mean, I was really surprised that Senator Stabenow, who has been representing our state in some form or fashion for 50 years, announced that she wasn't going to run again. That took me by surprise. So, I think whenever a big change like that happens, you talk to everyone you ask to speak to people who are big sort of leaders in the state, and you try to figure out, if this is something good for your life. Can you make a difference? Is there something you want to do in the Senate as opposed to the House? And I concluded that process over a course of a couple of months and felt like, yes, I feel like I want to do what we're doing, but at a more, significant playing field. And for me, it's like this radical concept that really simple things have become hard that shouldn't be hard, right? Like being able to have a middle class life, to get into and stay in the middle class, be able to afford all the things you want to do for your kids. Making things in America. We all know that during COVID, the chickens came home to roost, and we didn't have a 14-cent microchip, so we couldn't make cars on and off for 18 months. Protecting our kids from the things that really threaten them. I'm the first Congresswoman in America to represent two communities that have had school shootings, Michigan State and Oxford.
I want to talk to you more about that,
yeah, sure.
if I could. When tragedies like this happen, we hear all the time, do something, do something, do something.
Yeah.
What can be done?
Yeah.
What feasibly can be done to help prevent these types of school shootings?
Yeah. So there's no, magic key to solving everything. The first order decision is, are we going to work as a country on dealing with the number one killer of children under 21, which is gun violence? Once we make the decision as elected leaders, as citizens, that we want to work on that, then there's a lot of different things we can do. And I think Michigan is about to show the entire country what it means to have a tragedy and then act on it. We're going to pass at least some gun violence legislation. I think there's a package of 11 bills that are going through our legislature right now in Lansing. Universal background checks. If you're going to buy a gun, you should have to prove that you don't have some sort of warrant out, that you're not going through some sort of crisis. The big one from Oxford, safe storage. If you're a parent and you don't secure your weapon with a $10 gun lock, and your child takes that weapon and commits a crime, you should be charged as a parent.
It sounds like a common sense approach to this. I will ask you, what about the laws that are currently on the books? Like for Michigan State, he probably should have never been able to buy a gun if laws that were already on the books were followed.
Yep. So he actually legally bought a weapon. He had been found with an unregistered weapon a few years before. I talked with the cop who arrested him when they found that unregistered weapon. He pled it down to a misdemeanor. If he had been charged with a felony, he would not have been able to buy a gun when he did, but he pled it down. He was on parole, and when parole finished, he went out and bought a weapon. So that's why I'm introducing a piece of legislation that if you are convicted, felony or misdemeanor, of any gun-related charge, you should be banned from buying a gun for at least a chunk of time.
Let me ask you about energy. It seems like, and I'm simplifying a little bit, but it seems like when the wind blows lately, the power goes out. What do you make of our power grid situation as it is right now? Who's responsible and what can we do about it?
Yeah, after what happened with DTE and consumers and just the number of calls we got to our office, I think every elected official got, we sat down last week and had detailed briefings from consumers and from DTE. My district is largely consumers, but we know DTE in particular, there were just so many outages. And I think it's a combination of things, but the truth is we need major investment in our grid, the grid that holds up all this power. And we need to start in places that have been historically very vulnerable to outages over and over and over again. That's the city of Detroit and the suburbs of Detroit. Someone told me actually after the briefing that, the governor had always said, let's fix the darn roads, right? That we should fix the darn grid, right? That should be major investment. But then we also need transparency when something like this happens. I think I got so many calls because people are like, is my power coming on in an hour or in 5 days?
Right.
How do I plan? I got a kid at home. I got to take care of my baby, my business. I can't bring people in. And I think both consumers and DTE were very clear that transparency was a difficult challenge that they did not successfully surmount, and that has to change for next storm.
If elected to the United States Senate, you're going to have a lot on your plate nationally, internationally, that affects a lot of people here in Michigan. When you look at some national issues going on right now, you have a background in the CIA, national security, Russia. What do you make of all the money, the billions and billions of dollars that are going over to Ukraine right now? Is there an end game there? How much more can taxpayers afford? Yeah.
The truth is, when Russia made this decision to try to take over the entire country of Ukraine, we had a decision to make about whether we were going to try and stop Russia from doing that with our own American men and women, our blood, or whether we were going to try and arm the Ukrainians to defend themselves. We made the decision, though, that if Putin could just roll over a free democratic country, it was just going to be a hop, skip, and a jump until he's doing it to NATO countries, other countries in the area, and suddenly you're moving us from a place of someone else's war to us being engaged in a war with Russia, which I don't think anyone wants. So we made the decision to give them arms. I think the Ukrainians have done amazing with what we've been giving them. And the truth is, if we had done nothing and Putin had just started rolling over these countries, the price tag would have been much higher to go back and take back that territory, push him back later, if he had kept going and kept rolling through Europe. But we are getting to the point where, it feels more like it's moving towards a frozen conflict, right? Where Russia's taken a bit more territory, but not the whole enchilada of Ukraine. And what we want is, led by the Ukrainians, to get to a negotiated settlement. That's the ultimate goal. But you can understand the Ukrainians want to punch a few more times across the mouth before they agree to sit down and talks.
There are very few things that Republicans and Democrats agree on, at least outwardly. TikTok seems like it's one of them. We talk about it on this show all the time. Why are Republicans and Democrats alike so in the camp of TikTok is bad?
Yeah, I think, listen, the younger generation is very used to companies having their data, right? I'm 46, and when I talk to my younger staff, they're like, you know what, everybody has my data. I don't care. I like my social media platforms. The difference here is, instead of a Facebook or a Twitter, which is an American-owned company, now you have a Chinese-owned company that has all your data, all your preferences. They have your face information. They can do all kinds of things with artificial intelligence. So it's just a matter of who owns that data and what they could do with it, how they could exploit it. So it definitely gets the attention of both Democrats and Republicans because we're worried about the next generation. And I think about this for someone who's in the military, right? Let's say you're going to serve somewhere and you've been on TikTok your whole life. They have your face, your name, your preferences. How could they manipulate that if you're passing through a place like Singapore, if you're going to visit a place like Vietnam? It creates a possibility of people people manipulating American citizens because they have so much dirt on you and data on you.
You're going to have to come back because they're giving me a wrap. I could talk to you about all these issues and, of course, national issues, international issues, local issues. Thank you so much for being here with us. This is fun. We got to do it again sometime.
For sure.
Thank you so much.